All right, welcome. This is Leela Smith with You Are a CEO. I'm here interviewing Michael E. Parker.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good.
Great. So I'm excited today because we get to talk about your background, your history, all about you. Let people know you.
Yeah.
Everything's fair game, right?
Yeah, everything's fair game.
All right, you all heard it. So let's jump right in. I want to start at pivotal points as you being a CEO. Tell me about a pivotal point, being a CEO, you running your business. Can you tell me about a pivotal point for you as a CEO?
Well, yeah, I've had a lot of pivotal points. I think that's one of the things about any person that's going to be an entrepreneur, be a CEO, is you have to be able to notice when something happened that is pivotal, or something that, and pivotal is the word pivot. So when you think about things that make you want to pivot or make a change, make an adjustment, I'll share one example. I remember going to lunch this particular time with someone that I thought was going to be a potential business opportunity. And I went to just have lunch, and I told him a little bit about what I was doing. He felt my charisma. He felt what I was about and what I was mentioning. I was actually talking a lot about You Are a CEO and kind of wanting to get out and really help people. And he just looked at me, and he all of a sudden just said, "You should just be jumping on this table right now. Just right now. You need to just start jumping on this table." So I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You don't understand how things have changed and what you have and what you can do." And so he started to open my mind to technology and how everything was going to change. And this was some years ago. I mean, I don't know, maybe 2008, 2009. I don't remember the exact time, but he said, everything is changing. The landscape has changed. And so next thing you know, I go from this lunch and him saying I should be jumping on the table to him taking me to his house. I go to his house. He's got cameras everywhere. He's got stuff in an area for this, an area for that. And he turned his home into like a content development operation. And he was letting me know that basically, everything was going to change, and technology was flattening the world, and it was making things in a way where if you had something to offer, that there was the greatest platforms that ever existed to get that message out to others. And this just opened my mind to now technology could be used in a way that could catapult the things that I wanted to do to help people in a way that I didn't think was possible. So this was a definite pivotal moment in my life, because it caused me to think differently about what was available to me and how I could reinvent some of the businesses I had started and begin to help people in a greater way.
You mean to tell me you went to this guy's house?
Yep, complete stranger.
I was going to say, did you know him? Were you friends? Complete stranger.
No, first day I met him.
What in the world impressed you so much? And it might not be so much as him. What was it that he said?
Well, it wasn't just what he said. It was what I felt. I felt for some reason that this was a special moment. It seemed like it was beyond him. It's almost like sometimes you have to feel when something is just unique. You have these moments in your life where it looks like someone's talking into you or something, or talking into a deep place within. And for some reason that day, what he said just resonated. And I could tell this was something I was supposed to hear at that moment for a specific reason. And that's the reason I said, I'm going to follow this stranger and see what is this about? And sure enough, it definitely opened my eyes and my mind to new things.
That's powerful. That's powerful. What state of mind were you in? What were you looking for? You said you were going there for a business opportunity. So at the point he said something that struck a chord with you, that where you could see this could help you. What does it take to do that as a CEO? So you're going there to give something, but you ended up receiving something. What caused you to do that?
Well, in terms of being there in the conversation with him, I think I was initially going there to talk about, he was in the marketing field. So we were talking about some marketing things and things of that sort. And some of it I was already coming to potentially look if there was ways that we could partner, ways he could provide service to us. But I think it was a shift in learning that what I came there for is not necessarily what I got. What I got was something even deeper, which was beyond marketing, but actually understanding how the framework and the landscape of the world was changing, and how not only was marketing changing, but the ability to capture what you were doing in a real format and have it be consumable for others in ways that we never have seen before.
Wow.
This is what my mind was open to.
Blown.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. So you went through this moment. I want to take a step back.
Okay.
I want to talk about where you came from. So, award-winning CEO, we all know the stories. We'll talk about that. But what's your background? Where did you come from? What's your childhood?
Well, my childhood is a rocky journey, but it's definitely one that I appreciate because it's shaped me into what I am today. But basically, being actually born in Oakland, California, and raised in Richmond and Vallejo, California. A lot of my formative years was in Richmond, California, and those that may know, Richmond, especially at that time, wasn't the best city in terms of just a lot of the dangers of the streets and things that take place there. But more importantly, the things that my mom was going through at the time after splitting up with my dad and getting remarried. There was just a lot of struggle, a lot of challenge. You saw a lot of domestic violence, things like that. A lot of chemical dependencies that, were developed by my mom and people that was around her. She was trying to just cope with stress and the things she was dealing with. But all of that, causes you to, just really develop certain mental blockages, mental ceilings, things that cause you to look at things a certain way. It forms habits, it forms emotional patterns, it forms thought patterns. And all of those were things that I took to school with me. But eventually, after seeing a lot, and I never forget going and taking this drive with my mom to a home for battered women and looking at the kids in there and the other women that were in there, and just thinking about what would I become. School was always difficult. Sometimes you become the class clown because things are so serious at home, not so much because you just want to clown around, but you kind of need a way to get away from the seriousness of things that you shouldn't have to experience as a kid. So that all being said, there's so much of my journey that I could talk about, but I'll just say, childhood and just kind of staying there, that was kind of rocky, and going back and forth between parents, going to 5-6 elementary schools, seeing a lot that you shouldn't see, and then wondering, how would it change, and would you even live to, experience something different, or would you, be caught up in some of the things that you saw other kids getting caught up in. So that was a little bit about the childhood and just kind of how things were at the time.
Wow. So class clown, but completely not aware of, probably people didn't know, right, what you were going with. So people want to get to know you. So they hear the story. I hear the story of struggle, going to your mom with battered women. What was that like, and how do you think that shaped you?
Well, I think it was, it's a pretty traumatic experience. Anybody that's experienced domestic violence, especially being a young man, when you see domestic violence with someone that you love, someone that's close to you, like a mom, it's a very, very helpless feeling. Going to an environment such as the home for battered women, and you begin to see other women that's in that situation and other kids that are kind of lost. And so you connect in that sense of, in that sense of loss. And then sometimes the struggle of the back and forth, because anyone that knows about people that's been abused, they have a tendency to start, seeing abuse as love. So just watching, a person go back to that abuser and go back and forth. I think, when I think about how those things shaped me, I do think they made me tougher, because when you experience some pain and emotional hurt, and you see what it's like to have something very traumatic, and then you realize you're still breathing, it kind of toughens you up. But also I think it does create some, you can get some resentment, you can get some bitterness and things like that. That's why you have to be really careful of how to take those situations and turn them into fuel. I think, when I think about, being an entrepreneur, a CEO, a professional, a scholar, whatever you're going to do, there's going to be things that come up that are very tough. There's going to be letdowns, failures, disappointments. But when you come through certain things and your heart, gets ripped out and put back in a few times, when things come up, it just doesn't break you, it doesn't kill you. It might bother you, it might frustrate you, but can't kill you because you've seen worse, and so I think that's the good I take away from some of those things. And of course, there's a lot of things that it probably helped to shape, but those are some things that I appreciate about those experiences.
That's really good. I hear people. So when I hear your story, I think about people. Do you think some of those experiences caused you to really love people in general and want to see people be better?
Well, I think you're probably right. I think probably more than I realized at the time, but I don't think at the time I was thinking about people. I think I was thinking more about the situation. But I think the common bond between people is we all want to be happy. We all want to be treated respectfully. We all want to be valued. We all want to feel we matter. And so I think when you come through traumatic things and you see pain at a very deep level, I think what it does do is it increases your senses to understand how people feel and to know what hurt feels like and appreciate when hurt comes, how traumatic it is. So then you don't want others to feel that way. So I think it does give you a sensitivity towards people if you allow it, because you say, now that I know what hurt is and I know what pain is and I've seen a lot of it, I don't want anyone else to feel that, so you I guess you do develop a certain skill set of how can I, well, that's, I think for me, it definitely helped to sharpen my sensitivity towards people and knowing people that may be hurting or could potentially be hurt and wanting to do things to help people if I could. So I'm glad that I went that route versus other routes that some have went when they've experienced traumatic things.
So then you move from there and you become this great CEO, go on to college, different things like that. What was that pivot, that moment for you that caused you to shift? What was?
Well, I think there's a few things. I mean, there's I like to refer to it as the CEO moment or CEO moments, when you realize that you are the CEO of your life. And those are moments in time where you really begin to understand that you actually choose many things in your life, and those choices will determine your destiny. And so one of the things I would say, before I could even make a choice, I had to see a different way. So I think, I have to go back to some godparents that I had that, those godparents were, lifesavers to me. I met them in the church family that I was in at the time before my mom, kind of went a different route, built great bonds with them. And this was a minister and his wife, and they really, strong Christian principles and values, and more importantly, just a lot of love that they showed, and showed an example. So I would go and stay with them sometime in the summer. I was able to spend the night with them at times. They knew me, knew my mom, knew my father. And through those relationships, though, I always noticed that there were people, you see people, but there's not all the people that you really have a relationship and get deeper into their family and just understand their way of living. This was a group of people that I got a chance to see that side of how they really live, and see there's people who live a different way. Like you could be in four corners of a home and it's not stressful, or there doesn't have to be fighting and arguing. There's no, drugs. There's no danger. There's a sense of peace, or you could get good counsel. You could get good advice. You could, one particular summer I remember staying with them that my grades, I went up, I got on the honor roll just because someone sat with me and checked on my homework. You know what I mean? Just that little thing of, what did the teacher assign you? What are you supposed to be doing? And my grades went up, so just seeing that was very important. Now things, transpired where I wasn't able to, stay with them. I had to go back and forth, but I never forgot it. And it opened my mind to, just a different way of being, a different way of thinking. So what that did is it created what I like to call a crossroad. So a crossroad is a point where you can go right or left. And I think it's so critical to see a crossroad. And so when I got later on and I start to, matriculate through school and get into high school and deeper into, certain things right before kind of heading to college, I was able to draw from those experiences. And when it was now my turn to determine what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be, what I wanted to become, I made a choice to really go toward the example that I seen coming up in those godparents, to follow a different route and at least explore what I could be if I let go of some of the bad habits I got from childhood and latched on to some of the good ones. So I would say that was a pivotal moment in my life in terms of starting to head toward a better direction.
That's powerful. I like that. Crossroads.
Yes, crossroads.
That's the key. I'm going to keep that one.
Absolutely.
So moving forward, college, what was that like for you? What was that experience? Did you always know that you wanted to be a CEO?
Absolutely not. I didn't know what a CEO was when I was going to college and things of that sort. I mean, you hear about, businesses or whatever, but, I was just happy to graduate high school and be alive, things like that, just based on my background. And, going to college, I decided to go to junior college and, try to, kind of find my way. I wasn't sure what I wanted to be. There was a lot of different things that I thought, had potential, but you start learning really quickly that it doesn't come easy trying to find out what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to be, what is your, purpose in life. And so, I did know that I liked how things operated and how things came together. And I started to slowly begin to be drawn toward, more operations types things, how do things function? And I don't know where that started from, but, I always used to like to draw coming up. I used to like how, things worked, about the body, about, just how things move and work and why things work. And that turned into a love for operations. And I started seeing everything has an input, a process, and an output. So what is this whole thing about? Thought I wanted to be an engineer till I put a hard hat on and went out with someone on a tractor. And I said, this is not me. I need to be in an office somewhere for sure. But I found that this operations field allowed me to have some of the engineering, architectural type of vibe. But I liked business too, and money and how, products and services and all of that. So it kind of allowed me to put the two together and having a business degree in operations emphasis. So that kind of evolved. And again, at this time, not thinking anything about being a CEO, just loving operations and wanting to do something that allowed me to use those skills.
Really good. I'm thinking along that journey, you had to have people to talk to about thinking about being an engineer, about this. How important was that in your?
Well, that's kind of interesting. I really can't point to one mentor that I feel just really shaped me or pushed me from a business or professional perspective. I had a lot of mentors as a person, to, maybe motivate me to be a better person, whether that was, people in society, ministers, or people that I felt were good people, I love studying Dr. King and Gandhi and some of those men and things that they did. That inspired me. People who came through struggle and I like reading their writings and things of that sort. But there was not really a person that I could say I looked to. I was definitely an athlete. I loved basketball. I was a big viewer of Michael Jordan and watching how he played. I grew up in a time where the Bulls were on top of the world. So I loved competition. I loved sports. I loved all of that, but not really. And all those things motivated me to, and even achieving in basketball and in sports, it showed me that when I applied my mind to something, that I could do things that I didn't know I could do, and that I could achieve at a high level of success that I know I could. So I think it was a mixture of, all of that kind of mentored me to be excellent, not so much to be in business or operations or college, but to just be excellent. And I think going back to my childhood, I would draw from that when I was going to school to say, I just had an internal strength because of the things I had been through. So, when you go to class and you start meeting new challenges, I didn't realize I had a lot of substance in me because of things that had come through. It just kind of gives you a foundation and kind of an internal strength that you can draw from in whatever you're trying to do. And so I would have to say that I was kind of someone who learned as he went, and was mentored by life, was mentored by situations, was mentored by mistakes, mentored by successes. And that, kind of became a mentor. And that's not to take away from anyone that did great things that was around me, but I didn't really see anyone as like a one or two mentors that said, Michael, here's what you should do. Here's the path to follow. But I am thankful for the experiences that life taught me, and that eventually, as I begin to go, I begin to grow.
That's really good. Sounds like you could have been in the NBA. You like basketball?
I have to believe. If you let me tell it, I definitely feel I could have gave them some run for their money if I stayed on that path. But I decided to really, not put all of my heart and soul into that, because you could see that all of that can come to an end, one injury and it's over. I wanted to do more. And so, I end up being able to play sports and be in private leagues and things like that, but keep my focus on school and education. And in the end, I'm glad I did.
That's good. That's great.
Thank you.
So then you moved from there to, where did you go? So you were recruited by Toyota. Mm-hmm. We've read about that. Tell a little bit about how that happened and what that experience was like for you at Toyota.
Well, yeah, I started off as kind of like a internship type of thing while still in college. I met a gentleman from Toyota, and somehow that turned into this internship opportunity that they gave me. Little did I know that would change my life forever. Went there, I started off in the purchasing area, dealing with purchasing, materials management, and that type of thing. And I happened to be there at a time where Akio Toyoda, who's now the president, was there on assignment, and he was there to really make sure he checked on all of it. Everyone knew he was going to be the president, but you have to be 60-something years old to be the president in Japan. So he was going all around America doing things, and he happened to come to the place that I was at in California. The plant was called NUMI at the time, New United Motor, and it was a joint venture between GM, General Motors, and Toyota. And so he had come there because it was kind of a unique environment having a joint venture like that. So he was on assignment there for some time, and I was able to meet him. And I happened to be on a project that allowed me to give a presentation the day he arrived. And so they said, I was in my early 20s. And
how did you get a presentation? Early 20s from an internship to getting a presentation?
I know. It's just, it was amazing. I guess they saw that I wasn't afraid to, I had a lot of courage. I wasn't afraid to talk about things. I was a good presenter. And I would love to talk to some of them and find out why did they do that. But they said, Michael, we want you to give the tour. We want you to help with the presentations together, and walk him through. And then, so I did it. And little did I know, I didn't know it was a big deal. He didn't say much, but later on I get a phone call that he, remembered me, and he wanted me to be a part of a special project team. It was only 7 people from all across the country that would be sent to Japan, trained in the lean management discipline, which is Toyota's secret sauce, and an operational heaven, if you like operations, to learn about lean management. And that was the beginning of a whole new frontier to go to Japan, the foundation and the father of lean management and operational excellence. I was being sent there with a passport, had to go get my passport and rush and get on this plane to Nagoya, Japan, and then drive to Toyota City. I had a letter written in Japanese. I didn't even know what it said. Got there, went on got off the plane, handed the letter to the taxi driver. He nodded at me. I nodded at him. I didn't know what the letter said. And next thing you know, I was in Toyota City. I didn't even know they had a city in Japan called Toyota City. And when I got into that hotel room, I literally just fell to my knees and I began to just being a person of faith, I started to just thank the Lord for the experience, and couldn't believe, latchkey kid from Richmond, all the struggle, all the challenge. Here I am in Japan.
How old were you?
And what I must have been about, I guess I was about 22,
Wow, in your 20s.
23. Yeah, something like that. I was very young, just fresh out of college. So yeah, that actually is very young, isn't it?
That's very young to be flown to Japan.
Yeah. So yeah, I was out there in my early 20s, and again, just couldn't believe it. And it was a life-altering trip. Life-altering.
What did you learn?
Well, number one, I got to meet some of the, legends in Toyota who, really were the fathers of the lean management and operational approaches that Toyota had. And to go to these plants and just see the pristine floors and how everything was so clean, so visual, everything was just meticulous in the detail. To see, the suppliers and the production facilities so close together, and how it was all just working as one, well-oiled machine. And to see just the level of care about how an operation is supposed to go. I mean, I was really just shocked at the level of detail and care of every minute detail, and being able to learn these principles from people who just ate, drank, and slept this stuff was just amazing. Wow. And not only to, learn and get exposed to it, but to see examples of it, to see it in action. I think that was one of the biggest takeaways for me, is seeing it in action. So I never would forget that. And so all the learning that even came after that, I could refer back to real examples that I saw and understand more of why it was so powerful later on.
That's amazing.
Very much so.
So you learn all of this, but you're not running your own business yet. You're still at Toyota.
Absolutely.
So what was the shift for you from Toyota to running your own business?
Well, it's kind of crazy. I was at Toyota and moving up the corporate ladder. I was on the fast track. Everybody was, saying I was going to be an executive and move into this and that, and had good relationships with all the higher ups. The project that I was on got a lot of attention. So from the president to the executive vice president, he wrote the foreword in my book, Who Said So. We were, good friends. I had very good relationship with the top levels of the organization. And so it was really kind of crazy that I just really one day started to feel that this wasn't what I was supposed to do. I mean, it's the craziest thing, to be doing everything you love, but to start to feel that there's something missing. And the next thing you know, I started to really think about what I was learning. And it's like all at once, I just looked around the world. I looked around, the business world, and I just saw so many groups and people and operations that didn't know what I knew and what I had learned at Toyota. So it was like, what would happen if I took this knowledge and expertise and applied it to the service industry? What if we applied this to a salon or a real estate company or a service provider or an insurance operation or a food operation, a restaurant? And I would start, next thing you know, I was coming to work and I'm meeting with all these lean management experts, and I'm saying, well, can't you apply this in this way and that one? And I guess you can, but they were like, no one's ever done that, but I guess you can. I mean, these principles are principles. You can apply them to anything. I was even going to my local churches that, there were some churches that I had relationships with, and they were, they had cafeteria operations where they feed people. I was telling them, hey, we can implement lean right in this operation. We can make this a lean operation with how you all are serving food and cooking and prepping. And I started teaching them about lean, had them speaking Japanese. And next thing you know, I saw that, what is this that I can't turn off? And that was when I realized that it was something that I was supposed to do, that I needed to start businesses. And if at all, I could start off by starting a business to help people understand how to apply lean in different ways to get different results for their business, and to create new opportunities in industries that never knew anything about this knowledge. And so that's the whole purpose of being a CEO and entrepreneur is you see an opportunity that doesn't exist and you help bring it to pass. That's what I saw. And, some crazy turn of events, I made the decision to jump out into the entrepreneurial world and take a swim.
Wow. From operational heaven at
Yes.
Toyota
Yes.
to being an entrepreneur, taking the swim. You've heard it here. Let's take a break. And when we come back, I want to learn more about being a CEO. What was that like? How did you get started? Sound like you had a bunch of ideas.
Sure.
Which one did you choose first? Where did you go?
All right.
Looking forward to hearing more.
All right. Great.
All right. So here we are back with Michael E. Parker, learning about you and how you're doing. So we stopped off talking about your journey at Toyota. And you're going to be a CEO now. Right. You've decided that that's what you want to do. You want to take lean to the service industry. And tell me about when you first started a business, your first venture. I know you've had many, but let's go back to when you did your first venture. What was that? How did you choose what you wanted to do?
Well, I think because I was so impacted by the whole experience of Toyota and the lean management journey and all of that, my first passion was to just take this knowledge. I felt like I had some secret revelation that no one knew. I had this, just this whole different dynamic of knowledge that you couldn't get in school, you couldn't get in college, you couldn't get, around the corner. You couldn't go to an event and find out about it. It was just this secret sauce. And so what I wanted to do is start a business that basically went around applying these principles to new industries. So it started off wanting to be basically a consultant and have a consulting company and take people that I knew were very accomplished in the business world and train them on some of the lean principles and then couple that with the things that we were used to hearing about in business and bring just kind of a new experience to companies where they could learn how to apply these principles to either get more value, reduce waste, and ultimately just get more success as a company.
That's good. So some of your businesses, what were they? I know you started a few different ones.
Right. Well, I think the first business I started was basically a consulting company that kind of turned into like a business management company. Okay. Started off just wanting to, again, provide knowledge about all of these, different facets of business. But then, as I started to explore it more, I started seeing, well, instead of just going around helping businesses, what about starting the businesses and, getting a core group of people to actually be different in the industries they were in. So I started looking around and saying, you know what, when I look at my network of people and all the people that I had access to at the time, I know a lot of people in real estate and loans. I know a lot of people that's into, cosmetology with in the beauty industry. And that really began to be the starting point is what if we could apply this? What if we could look at real estate as a lean operation? There's all this stuff you have to do with all this paperwork, all this office work. There's a lot of waste in how you do things, a lot of back and forth, same thing in the beauty industry. You got long lines and people waiting all the time, especially in, shops. Yes, you should know. So, especially in shops and places like that where, you get people going there and being there all day. So it was an opportunity to say, well, could I do something different and apply this way of thinking to these industries? And what if we had a salon that was fast and had quality? What if you had a real estate company that, had a very highly, seamless operation where things were efficient, it was administratively excellent, and the value that was brought to you was just at a higher level than you've seen in other real estate operations and loan operations. So that was my starting point, and it was a pretty interesting journey.
Real estate, business management, hair.
Yes.
I mean, did you have an investor? How did you get all these things done? How did you manage to open? How many businesses would you say you've opened?
Well, it was really just a mixture of things. So getting, friends and family, who believed in what I was doing to get involved, to patronize, to invest, to support. And then, once starting to, mobilize and get some of these things organized, It turned from, 1 and 2 businesses to 5 and 6 businesses, from 5 and 6 businesses to 10 to 12 businesses.
Wow.
And each one of those experiences, kind of came to me in some instances because, a lot of people begin to see that I was able to organize how to do things in a business perspective and start to say, well, hey, maybe we could go to Michael and we could see if we could put something together. There's a group of us. Here's what we're doing. And most of these were a lot of close relationships in which they had expertise, but maybe needed some of the lean knowledge as well as the business experience that I was gaining. And see, could we put all that together to start a business that made sense and serve, different communities that we know needed it. So that's kind of how it began to just morph and begin to grow. And, it's kind of interesting as an entrepreneur, once you get past that, fear of starting a business and, what is the legal things you do? How do you set things up financially? Once you kind of cross that, you start to, realize that, hey, you can do this in many different ways. Now, that's not always good, though, because, you don't want to be a professional business starter, right? You want to also make sure you build something that's sustainable. And so there's a lot that I learned during that journey. There's a lot of mistakes that I made, but there was also a lot of great successes and things that I feel that I was able to accomplish. And all of it was just a womb of experience that gave birth to who I am today.
That's good. You talked about a lot of success, some failure. What was some success that you had? What did you experience? Opening these businesses, a lot of them are in the San Francisco Bay Area, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So what did you experience? How did people receive you in your community?
Well, first let me say it was in the San Francisco Bay Area, but we did start to, we got into other states as well, Texas, Louisiana, even in New Mexico at one point. And, I really feel like when you think about these different businesses and you think about the different experiences, all of these different experiences begin to shape, many different things. And the successes that began to come was, I feel, a great sign that we were doing something right. Because, when the awards come, it's not that the awards, necessarily directly is money, but it does show a sign of appreciation that you're doing something right. And so I got the 40 Under 40 award. Nice. I got, many different business awards in the cities we were in, Business of the Year and all of those types of things. Got the Jefferson Award for some of the service, being given back to the community.
You're being modest.
Well, just
you're saying it like, 40 Under 40, Jefferson.
Well,
most CEOs are not going to see one of those. So
but I think I'm more that way because I saw how much that those awards could not protect me from the things I needed to learn still.
That's good.
People can give you an award, but that still doesn't mean that you have everything you need as a CEO. People gave me awards at times where I knew there's still, I had a lot to learn, and things that I didn't even know I needed to learn. And so, it's an appreciation and a thankfulness and a humbleness, but it's also a reality check that a trophy or a plaque doesn't make you as a CEO. Good. It really comes down to the decisions you make and what you do when there is no plaque. What do you do when there's no award? What do you do when no one notices you? What do you do when everything's going wrong? I really feel like that is a bigger testament of a CEO than when everything is being acknowledged, right? Because you can do something 1 year or 1 month or one moment that is awardable, but business doesn't last just 1 year, 1 month, and one moment. Business is more than that. And when you start dealing with business and you start dealing with people and you start dealing with the reality of success and challenge, then you start determining what type of CEO are you and what type of entrepreneur are you, and are you going to last? And that's why you hear me kind of talk about, all the great things and, all of the awards and being, I never forget starting to do things on television. And, it's funny when you watch the news all your life and then all at once you're like in a studio on the,
You are the news.
You are the news. And you're in the news and they're getting everything ready. And they're okay, we're on in 5, 4. And the next thing you know, the lights are on you and you're talking to this, individual. And, you're just wondering, like, what am I doing here? Wow. Like, how did this happen? And you're on NBC or you're on headline news or, here you're on, Fox Business News, and it's just an amazing experience. Or you're talking with a celebrity, and it's not so much being on stage with a celebrity, but it's the back room when you're just talking as people, and you realize this person is a person just like you, and and they might have money, but they're still trying to make more money, and they might have had success and people like them, but they're still trying to find their way just like you. Right. And you start to learn that all of these experiences, at the end of the day, you have to think about, as a CEO, what do you want out of the experience of being a CEO? And make sure you don't get so caught up in what you're doing that you forget that this is something you're supposed to be doing to make you happy. Yeah. Because if you don't keep that in mind, when times get tough, you'll find out if you really were doing this for the right reason.
I want to talk about that. So you talk about success, the awards. What pressure does that bring? So you're ascending, you're moving up, you're getting the awards. At some point, there has to be a sense of pressure, I would imagine. What was that like? What pressure were you under? Or did you feel a sense of pressure to go even further, to succeed further, to open more businesses? And what did you experience?
Well, I think I experienced many different types of pressures. Pressure is an amazing thing. People talk about peer pressure and things like that. I think because of the type of person I am, I've had a lot of leadership attributes, since I was really young, and not being much of just a follower, just do something because everyone else is doing it. But I think my pressure more comes from the pressure of meeting a goal that I have, or the pressure of helping people, or feeling like I didn't meet the need to help a person, or I have a very high standard of excellence in the things that I do, and so I think that's the greatest pressure for Michael E. Parker is Michael E. Parker. And so I think in starting these businesses and realizing that these weren't just businesses anymore, they were, organizations of people, and each of these people had lives and families, and you start feeling a pressure to perform and to make sure that, are you guiding the business the right way? Yeah. Are you leading the business the right way? Are you missing anything? Are you handling the problems the right way? Is there something going on that you can't see that's gonna hurt the business? Those are the pressures, I think, that were more important. Not so much in the pressure that I got an award, can I get another one? I never really got caught up in that. I think it was more the pressure of, how do you make sure this thing continues? And then I think, speaking of the pressures, I think one of the greatest challenges was when the real estate market crashed. I mean, that was, gigantic, because out of all the businesses that I had started, the real estate industry was a big support to everything I had created. It was so much money to be made in real estate and loans, and it was a lot going on that we couldn't see coming. I really wish I would have known the danger that I can see now in hindsight, the different programs that the industry was offering, and all the big boys at the top, while they were playing around and coming up with these programs and stuff, and we were using them and doing, we didn't know that it was going to be a balloon that would bust. And, when that busted, the pressure of trying to figure out how to deal with the challenge of that, a lot of money was lost. A lot of people that had confidence in me lost money. There were situations where, had I have known what was going to happen just even the next year, I wouldn't have made a decision this year. Absolutely. Or I wouldn't have put certain things at risk, but you just didn't know that the severity of what was coming. If there was anything you thought was safe, it was real estate, and real estate in California. Yeah. But it turned out California was the worst place to be at that time, and it was when that began to take place. And, one of the toughest meetings I've ever had was to have to, we got up to like 200 people in our business, but to meet with your team and, literally have to look them in the eye and tell them you can't afford to keep them and keep things the way they are, and that's probably a greater pressure than anything you ever want to feel, and And you have to have the courage, and you have to face the music. You can't run and hide. You're the CEO. You say, I want to be the CEO. I want to be the CEO. I want to be in charge. I want to tell everybody what to do. But yeah, when things go south, then you got to be the CEO of that south, and you got to be the CEO of the pain. You got to be the CEO of communicating hard things. You got to be the CEO of looking people in the eye and telling them something they don't want to hear. You got to be the CEO of owning failure or challenge, or that's when that's when you really feel pressure. And I would say that, once kind of experiencing that, then there came, just other pressures that came from that. The pressure of reinventing yourself, the pressure of finding out what to do now, the pressure of rebuilding, the pressure of, how to take what is left over and try to make something of it. And so I would say that these were some of the more tumultuous times of my journey as an entrepreneur, but I wouldn't trade them because it definitely, I really feel that's when I became a CEO. That's good. Because I was a CEO, managed millions of dollars, saw a lot of things, did great stuff, a lot of awards. But a CEO is really, not just a chief executive officer, but you start learning that CEO has to expand to a chief empowerment officer, a chief excellence officer, a chief encouragement officer, and I can go on and on, but you start seeing that, this is not just about being called a CEO. Now I've got to have vision. I've got to figure things out. I've got to motivate people. I've got to get people to believe in what's unbelievable. I've got to reinvent. I've got to figure out a new product, a new service, a new approach. When you are supposed to be an entrepreneur and everything is ripped away from you, what do you do? And I think at that point is when I had no one to rely on. My whole executive team left. All of the standard bearers that I could rely on were gone. And, that's when you start to really think about, do I have what it takes to be a CEO, or am I a CEO? CEO, because you say, I can't do it. I don't feel I can do it. And I see why so many people quit and stop, when you look at the statistics, because they had moments like that. And, justifiably, they just couldn't stomach what it takes to keep going.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, no problem.
That's amazing. Everybody sees the awards. They see the high points. Not a lot of people talk about the low points.
Right.
And you have to have success and failure to really, truly succeed. So would you say, moving forward, is that we started this session talking about that pivotal point where you had that business meeting. It seems as if after you had to reinvent yourself, you have to kind of start over. Did you feel like you were starting over? Did you feel like, what was that like? Start over, to reinvent, to do something different?
Well, I think it was, I guess, fearfully wonderful, I could say. It was kind of fearful to think about what to do next. But to be honest, some of the best ideas I ever got in my life happened then.
Wow.
When you get your back against the wall, I think it's human nature that, when you're in a moment of complexity, a moment of great trial, a moment of nowhere to turn, you maximize what your brain can do. You maximize what your ideation can do. And I think that's when you learn more about who you are and what you're capable of, is when you have to do something, right? You have to fix something. So,
but why did you have to? Michael, you were talented. You could have gone and got a job. You could have gone and done many things. Why feel like I want to keep going? What was that?
Well, I think I was driven by the vision that I started off with. I wanted to start businesses. I wanted to help people. I wanted to create job opportunities. I wanted to create resources to fund the things that were important to me, giving back to community and society in a way that was meaningful to me. I love helping young people. I love helping, community organizations that I feel uplift people spiritually. So, I felt like that's what I wanted to do, and that I just got disrupted in that journey. So when that vision is strong and when you believe in it and you really believe in it, then when something happens, you look at it more as, it's a disruption to a path you must walk. And that's what I felt. And that's why I felt like I had to keep going, even though, if you're a praying person, this is the time you start praying, you start praying and starting to try to really figure out, what's your purpose and what am I doing? And, and for all the entrepreneurs that will hear this and CEOs, I mean, you're going to have that moment where your back is against the wall and you need to really make a decision. And this is not cut out for everybody. Some people, sometimes you find out that it was just time to go get that job, and go join up in the corporate world, or sometimes that might be the right decision, right? You can't be afraid of that. But for those of us that just knew that there was this internal flame that you could not put out, and that you begin to open your mind up to what is possible. And then the next thing you know, if you really are an entrepreneur, if you really are meant to do certain things, then there's something that you have to get or have that you see that you can build on. Because if nothing comes to you, then there's nowhere you can take anything. So that's sometimes your answer. If you don't see what to do, then maybe you shouldn't do it. But if you get a vision of something, then there's something you have to do.
You mentioned you felt the moment you became a CEO was in some of those lowest. Where did you are a CEO? So at this point, you're reinventing yourself, you're pushing forward. You felt your passion was to do that. You are a CEO. Where did that come from?
You are a CEO is really a powerful story. The brand and the name actually came out of that time. Oh. That time when everything went haywire, that's when URCO was born. Again, some of my best ideas came out of that time, right? But URCO really started from my childhood. And, coming through so much struggle, and, you heard me talk about, all the things I've seen, all the challenges, all the issues, and then finally getting to a better point in life, the godparents, and seeing different examples, the crossroad, and then choosing a different path. And when I start to achieve success, I really had an awakening that the moment that I realized that I had the power to choose how hard I would work, how I'm going to let my insecurities impact me, how much passion I have. These are all things no one can stop me from doing, right? Every day I wake up, there's no one that can stop me from being passionate. No one can stop me from working hard. No one can stop me from learning. It's my choice of how I let my background impact me. When I started to see that this awakening that there was some areas of me that no one could stop. Well, that's URCO. URCO is when you understand that you are the CEO of so many things to do with you. And so when you really get that, that's when the doors open, right? It's a CEO moment to say, I honestly can impact me, right? And so when I started to understand, I came out with this, you are a CEO. And the tagline was, you run the business of you.
Brilliant.
Because again, you're dealing with, okay, I am a business, right? And sometimes, ironically, we care more about our business and our professional career than we do ourselves. We won't take time for ourselves, our relationships, our health, our money. We'll do everything when it comes to us. It's no big deal. You get to work and it's like, oh, boss, I'm ready to go. Everything's in the ready, orderly time. But with ourselves, we tend to let down. And so I think when I started to see that the business of me was critical, that's where I start to draw from my past to create this new brand, this new sound. And I wanted to tell everyone that would listen that they were a CEO. Wow. And they needed to unleash that CEO. I just went everywhere, anyone who would hear corporate world, big speaking events, no matter if it was thousands or 10 people, I told them, you need to unleash that CEO inside. You need to draw from the pain of whatever you've been through and use it as fuel. You can make a choice to be. I told young people, your office is your room. Your backpack is your desk. You know, your whatever you got. Right. Your shoes is your car. The when you go to your school setting, make the teacher work for you. You know, you're the CEO of your education, right? So, and you see I'm getting passionate already.
I feel like I can do anything.
That's it. That's it, because mindset matters. And, you know, when you get the right mindset of you are a CEO, you start to understand that people say all the time, you can be anything you want to be. I believe I can fly, you know, all of this type of stuff. Think happy thoughts. But, you know, and I'm not kind of a foo-foo, fluffy type person, but I really mean that you can get in a mindset that understands who you are, what you want to do, and the power of choice, and puts all that together to shape the type of life that you want. And I'm not one of those that, you know, believe if you think things, it'll come to you, because I've tried to think about $10 million and it never showed up. But I do think if you get your mindset focused on being in charge of your success and then doing the things that are necessary to do that, surrounding yourself with what is necessary to become that you will actually attain to that, because you're the CEO.
Wow. That was powerful. You know, sometimes I've heard you describe you are a CEO as a movement. Why do you call it a movement?
Well, you know, movements to me are something in which there's a belief system that people can rally behind. And when you have a movement, it's also a sign of something that is directional, that is going somewhere. You are still as a movement to me because there's too many people that don't know they're a CEO. So, and they already are, but don't know it, right? So the movement is the spreading of a belief system in which we all unleash that CEO and get take control of our relationships, take control of our financial position, take control of our health, take control of those things that have hurt us in the past. But you don't have to let that destroy you. Just like me, I could have let my background destroy me, but I made an executive decision, to do something different. Who's in your C-suite, right? Your C-suite is normally your CFO and your COO, and you use them to guide you. Well, what are those relationships around your life that you're letting guide your decisions? Wow. You go to your balance sheet. Is your life in balance? How many assets do you have versus liabilities? And I'm thinking about situations and people that are around you. What's your personal profit and loss? You know, and what am I losing and what is profiting me? You know, to really think differently about the business of you. And so that is why I feel this is a movement, is that there is a belief system, there's a mantra, there's a sound, there's a manifesto, there's a decree that is being made that no one should exist. I don't care if you have a learning disability. I don't care if you're in a bad neighborhood. I don't care if mom was there or dad was there or mom wasn't there or dad wasn't there. I don't care if your business is failing or your business is succeeding. I don't care if you're not sure about your career. It doesn't matter if you did good things and now you're trying to find out what to do next. Wherever you find yourself, you still wake up every day a CEO, and you have to make a decision. And this is why I feel like, you know, it's my mission to get this world to understand what's available to them inside of them. And once they do, success is up to them.
Wow. That's powerful. I want to hear that again, but I know we got to keep moving. That's amazing. Michael, it's been a pleasure interviewing you today. Thank you for sharing your story.
All right. It's been a pleasure.
I've got to manage myself. I've got to manage my mind. The task is not easy, but to high heights I climb.
I'm determined to succeed, so no excuses, please. If you don't want success in life, then don't hinder me. Yes, let the whole world know. You are a CEO.
easy, but to higher heights I climb.
I'm determined to succeed, so no excuses, please. If you don't want success in life, then don't